you're going to just have to pay a certain amount to get someone to click on an ad. And this is the problem with biscuits.
Modern food engineering, so aggressively split tested, has started to take the classics that we know and love and just modify the ratios slightly to make it something delicious and greater than the sum of its parts. I've just nailed the whole thing. So
There's 1,000 calories in the box.
yeah, you don't even think about it, do you?
That's astounding. So I would have thought, wow, got the calories between friends. It's
Like, what is it doing to the pizza? Oh, he's just throw it in the bin.
let's say you take that attitude, like I'm going to shoot from the hip, and if I get banned, I get banned. The smartest people in the tech industry. So if they decide that they don't want you on their platform, and you think, well, I'll open an incognito window and still operate on their platform, like chances are, if they don't want you on their platform, you're not going to be on their platform. So people go all the way down to setting up a new business, a new company, and buy a new laptop and set up a new profile, and doing all these sorts of things to try and bypass the rules. So you can do that if you want to, but it's just a lot more difficult.
So there are some strategies to not get your Facebook ads declined.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good
How many
morning.
have you tried these?
Yes.
Digestive Thins, for anyone listening on iTunes and is thinking, what is that? They are fantastic. I think modern food engineering, because it's become so aggressively split tested, has started to take the classics that we know and love and just modify the ratios slightly to make it something delicious and greater than the sum of its parts. The other one is Jaffa Cake balls.
So I think I've tried those, and they are very good.
Incredible. Like more dark chocolate, more squishy, none of the fuss.
The digestive thing, I think with stuff like that, I always just think they're trying to trick people.
I think they do, because you end up, like, they're smaller, but you end up eating more than twice as many.
So that's it. I don't think anyone thinks like, oh, I was going to have a digestive, but it's okay, I'll have 2 thins instead. Do you know what I
Small
mean?
food, I think, is far more dangerous. Like, okay, even potatoes, like, you know, that, like, if you ate a big baked potato compared to loads of little ones with rosemary and butter.
Oh, I see what you mean. So that's like the satiety thing. The example with satiety that I always think of is potato, like dry baked potato versus buttery mashed potato. Same quantity, which you're likely to eat quicker and which is more likely to be most filling.
Yeah, exactly. Which one can you just plow down?
Going, yeah. But yeah, like all of these like, and they're always the same calories, aren't they? More or less. Is it like per 100 grams? I imagine it's the same calories. It's just a different shape.
Probably slightly different because I bet there's a bit more dark chocolate on them.
Because they've increased the surface area of biscuit, haven't they? Basically.
500 calories per 100 grams.
How many grams in the packet?
200. I've just nailed the whole thing.
Oh my god!
So
there's 1,000 calories in the box.
Yeah, you don't even think about it, do you?
That's astounding. So I would have thought, wow. And you just put away 1,000. So while we were on the call prior to this, you've done 1,000 calories of biscuit.
I'd eaten a few before, but something else that I saw recently was, so there's a trend now where they take pros in their field and sit them in front of like fails of that type.
Oh,
so
I
like,
have seen that.
They'll
on
take
YouTube.
they'll take like builders, like professional builders, and show them like people doing crap DIY. Or today was a chef being shown like people trying to cook at home and just messing things up. And it's like, what is it doing to the pizza? Oh, he's burning the pizza. Just throw it in the bin. Absolutely great.
I've seen the ones where it's like Navy SEAL sniper reviews like top 5 war scenes, and then like, you know, the guy who did Free Solo, do you know him, like Alex?
Yeah, a bit of a psychopath.
Yeah, he's very, like, where they show him like pictures of war and all these things, and he doesn't have an emotional response on an MRI. But yeah, like they showed him climbing scenes, and like the things he picks out, he's like, man, like it's so unreasonable to like imply that brand, because everyone knows what that brand is, that orange clip. Like now everyone thinks it's that brand's fault that this guy's fallen, when actually like it was the way that he positioned it, and that you're just like, bloody hell. Like
it's
how
amazing.
much he knows about his specific thing.
I love seeing people just in their element of
Of expertise.
professionalism, and that's really what we wanted to do today. Because
Is that
Johnny,
why you asked? Is that why you brought that up?
well, no, but it segues
So quick.
very nicely into that, which is the fact that Johnny is the most impressive person that I've seen in many ways, of course, but particularly with anything to do with spreadsheets.
Oh, right. Okay.
And Facebook ads, he just sees through numbers in the matrix and is able to just go, but that's the problem. And so what we wanted to talk about today, among the reams of content that Johnny's done behind the paywall and in front of the paywall about running Facebook ads, but particularly how to avoid Facebook ads being banned. It's a bit of a minefield.
Hot potato.
Yeah.
Is that what that was?
So, before we did this, Johnny's concern was about the legal not the legal ramifications, but if someone was to get their ad account banned as a result of listening to the advice here, we've got to say this is only relevant for the year 2020, and based on our experience, these companies often change their policies. And
well, so I think the evergreen advice is read their policies, because those are always updating. They're not some of it is obfuscated and not that overtly defined by them. So something might get banned for a reason, and you're looking at it thinking, I don't think it does say that. But a lot of it's algorithmic. A lot of it's done by a bot. So it's not always a human making a decision. It's a computer making a decision. But a lot of it, if you just read the policies very, very carefully and try and think of it from their perspective, not yours, then suddenly you're all right, yeah. Of course that thing's non-compliant. But this, I think, Facebook advertising, what it was when we started. I remember the first Facebook ad we ran. You probably can't, but I can remember. In fact, you know what? The other day, you added me to a Facebook group called Editors Discussion. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So we used to have a Facebook group where, for some reason, and I don't really know why, I think it was influenced by T Nation, we all called ourselves editors. The editors were the board of directors that ran Propane.
Whereas now it's founder, CEO, chairman,
best-selling entrepreneur, doctor, the accountant. But yeah, so there was a post in there where I said I've just spent this much on ads or something like that. I was like, wow. It was back in 2010, 2011, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe a bit later.
You were still in your accountancy training at that point.
Maybe it was a bit later. It's weird though, isn't it, to think back to that far? But anyway, so things have changed a lot in terms of what isn't allowed. The stuff people were doing back then versus what you can and can't do now has changed a lot. So what would you, I guess you asked me some questions, because this is a massive topic.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose the step one is understanding the basics of the numbers, which I think for you as an accountant, it's just clear as day for you. And I know you've got other bits of content on that. But then when you talked about compliance with the regulations, this is, as you said, it's about empathy and recognizing okay, what would the company want to avoid as the worst case scenario happening? And we were talking about this the other day in a hospital setting, where sometimes discharging someone who's just overdosed on loads of paracetamol and giving them paracetamol, they may well not have any ongoing suicidal intent. This was a problem I actually had a couple of weeks ago, but it's not about that. It's about how would it look if you did do it and then something went wrong, and then looking at the paperwork, it's oh God, well that's a bit awkward. So from a Facebook perspective, it's there are many, from what I understand from you, there's many exploitable things within creating ads that when they get exploited, Facebook will often pick up on it and be oh, that's a bit dodgy. Let's stop that from being allowed in future.
Yeah. Well, so I suppose it's thinking like, what is a person who is trying to abuse a consumer likely to do? So like, what are they trying to do? They're trying to avoid a bad user experience. So what does a bad user experience look like? And then how do we stop that from happening as often as possible? And obviously Facebook have been in the media a lot for, all the Cambridge Analytica stuff and people thinking that they're involved in elections and political things. And so they are trying to ultimately optimize for time on screen. And so if they're optimizing for time on screen, then that feeds into positive user experience and keeping someone engaged on the platform. And someone seeing an ad that upsets them, or a piece of content that upsets them, or giving them a bad like purchase experience and all these sorts of things leads to, well, that creates like these 10 things, these flags that we would look out for that a scammer, for example, might do. And then how do we block those or prevent somebody from doing those things?
That's interesting. So like one of the examples of like having blanket rules that seem simple, but then they get exploited. And then over time, as they update things, they have to refine these rules a bit more, would be Cambridge Analytica or the fake news situation where you've got people wanting to maximize on-screen time. And then the parties that are putting content up will think, well, the best way to do that based on the emotions that are evoked in the reader is outrage, because outrage is the most highest engagement type of content that you can put out. I think, well, how do I maximize outrage? Well, I'm no longer held to the standards of truth. I don't have to say anything that's true. I just need to say things that are really mental. Mm-hmm. You're like, whoa, I'm commenting on this. So then fake news just comes about as a result. It's just like, well, it's not malicious. It's just like, well, how do I get the most comments and get the most whatever? It's to just post ridiculous, absurd news articles and get people commenting.
Yeah. And the polarity attracts two sides of an argument generally, which is hence polarizing. So like anytime something is doing that, it is more likely to gain discussion, comments, and engagement, which is that word that everyone talks about online. And why is that important? Well, again, it maximizes time on screen, like keeps me coming back to the app to check into the app of who someone's commented on my blah, 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 blah. So again, it all comes back to like, if you were the CEO of any one of these social platforms and you are given the remit of stakeholders and shareholders are all linking up to this core goal, which we assume is time on screen, so the amount of time as a user uses your platform, then what does that mean you have to do to the fit pro who's spending £20 a day on ads, right? Who says something that's a little bit close to the bone, or who does something that might make someone scrolling through their newsfeed, like while they're sat like on the toilet one morning, feel a bit shit about themselves, right? Are you going to think, oh, well, he didn't mean it, or they didn't mean it, or are you going to think, gone, right?
Okay, so philosophically then, you've got two choices as an advertiser. You could either be the guy who is close to the bone all the time, like really just riding the line of what's acceptable and running the risk, well, getting a higher conversion on your ads or higher exposure, but running the risk of just getting your ad account shut down, or staying very, very much in the kind of trodden path and staying away from things that are risky.
Some of it, I suppose, where people get concerned is like, there are phrases and words you can say, which, and like the reaction as well, for example, before and afters, those are like the thing that everyone, especially in fitness, they know that you can't post a before and after. Everyone's like, yeah, but my results are real. And I actually got that result. So I'm not misrepresenting. Again, that's not the point. Like, think back to what might someone who is misrepresenting, what might they do? Right. Well,
if someone was to exploit it.
Yeah. So it's opening up a potential loophole for somebody to take advantage of, because we've all seen before and afters that have been doctored. So Facebook either say, well, right, we need a board of like an independent board here who are going to look at all the before and afters, who are like medically trained and have a lot of experience, who are going to say, yes, no, like that person's clearly just taken loads of Clen and that's how they've got that lean. But that person's promoting something that doesn't involve using Clen. We shouldn't allow that. Ban the ad, right? It's just easier for them easier life for them, especially when you've got like Jaguar running ads about the latest car. Like who are they going to give preferential treatment to in the newsfeed?
Yeah. So why is it important then to have a kind of philosophical underpinning, or like understanding the principles, rather than this podcast just being like, here's 3 tactics to not get your ad account banned?
So Facebook have this like guideline, which is every time somebody makes a ad course, like a course on advertising, as soon as they've finished it, it's out of date, right? Which I know by definition is the case, but like the point is the goalposts are moving constantly. So like, for example, to give you an example of this, a round of people running ads on Facebook have just run into a violation called the circumvention violation, which is that like they think that you are trying to prevent Facebook from like looking at your website and looking at what you're doing. Some landing page software will like redirect the homepage. So let's say you have an offer which is personaltrainer.com/download, right? And when you go to that, it's a landing page and it's compliant. You can download your thing. They might also then try to go to personaltrainer.com, and when it does that, it then auto redirects to something that isn't that. That would be deemed as a circumvention violation, right? So a lot of people have been doing this without any problems up until very recently, and suddenly, presumably because like they've had a bad experience with someone who's done some circumvention tactics, suddenly everyone's had ads banned for that reason. So goalposts have moved. So if you just focus on a single point in time of like, these are the 5 things I need to do, tomorrow you're out of date, next week you're out of date. So you have to try and firstly stay current, but secondly, if you view it from what does a scammer look like? What does a bad user of the ad platform do? What might their attributes be? How do I not be that? Then it's far easier to have a kind of a framework for operating than think, well, I can do all these naughty things, but as long as I don't press that button, then I can still play the game.
Right. So it's like overall principles of consistency.
Yeah.
And to avoid the Circumvention Act, for example.
And I should say, like, I'm not the fountain of knowledge with this stuff. Like we run into problems. I'm sure we'll have further problems. It's just a case of like trying to approach it as, how do I bring it back to first principles, and how do I try and stay compliant as much as I can?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people might be thinking like, well, you're sounding very risk averse here. What's the like? Why can't I just go full YOLO on my ads and just see what happens, and then worst case, I'll just set up a new account?
Well, I mean, you can if you want to. Like,
but what's the impact of
so there's just degrees of difficulty with everything, right? So like, let's say you take that attitude, like I'm going to shoot from the hip, and if I get banned, I get banned, and if I do, then I'm going to like buy a new laptop and set up a new profile and set up a new ad account and everything from scratch. Like, firstly,
wait, hang on, I have to buy a new laptop.
So that's some advice is that
I'm taking very devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I know. So some advice that people give is like, we don't know what they've banned, right? So bearing in mind that you are operating in the world of some of the, if not the smartest, like people in the tech industry. So if they decide that they don't want you on their platform, and you think, well, I'm just going to I'll open an incognito window and still operate on their platform, like, chances are, if they don't want you on their platform, you're not going to be on their platform. So people go all the way down to like setting up a new business, a new company, and doing all these sorts of things to try and bypass the rules. So you can do that if you want to, but it's just a lot more difficult, right? And you trace it back to like the source of the problem of, here I am setting up a new business to try and run advertising because I wanted to go yellow with my ad. Like, so you can do that. It's like, I could drink drive. I could, there's loads of things you could test the rules with. It's like, are you happy with if that goes wrong? So now, like, how much do you get from that?
So I think that's it. Like, people don't, maybe like a lot of people wouldn't recognize the consequence of like, if I, have to go and get a new laptop, and then potentially like, if you take that to the nth degree, you're that like, I have to go to a different city, hook onto a different Wi-Fi,
yeah,
different IP address. But then accidentally, if I open the laptop and it's and it connects to my home Wi-Fi. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And
Start
the thing
again.
is, like, it gets described a lot as the black box, right? So we don't really know what they do, and it makes sense that we don't know what they do, because if they revealed all the rules, then people would just
Exploit
develop
it.
things to break them. Exactly.
So it's in their interest then to keep people very cautious and very on their toes and staying in the middle of the road.
Yeah. But so I think, like, we had a conversation about this, like, probably a year ago now, of like, it's never really a good idea to be reliant on anything in business. So, like, one of the first things you talk about probably in any business degree, like we've both seen it before, was a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You're just looking very blank. You've done it. You
Yeah,
must have
that
done it.
was just like all of my first year,
Yeah. Stop talking about SWOT
which I
analysis.
was asleep for.
Yeah. So, like, you look at an internet business, right? So a lot of offline businesses, the SWOT analysis recently, like, in threats is lockdown, right? What happens if? And weaknesses is, well, I'm reliant on my location being open for me to operate and generate revenue. So, like, an online business doesn't have that, but an online business still needs people to be there, which is traffic, right? So if you're running advertising, and that's like the gym that Yusuf and I run on the internet, right? That's going to get shut down. So there's always that risk. So being, what's the word? Diversified, right?
Yeah.
Having multiple ways that you can get people to see what you're doing is definitely prudent. So something we've been experimenting with is different ad platforms as well, just because I suppose what all of this comes down to is, once you understand that you just have to buy a unit of attention or acquire a unit of attention. So in advertising world, that's 1,000 impressions, right? Everything is billed and priced as 1,000 impressions. So if I want to get 1,000 impressions, which just means 1,000 people to see, or I want to serve an ad, an image and some text on some news feeds 1,000 times today, I could build my Instagram audience, or go on Twitter and get trending, or trending on LinkedIn, or post a YouTube video, all these different things. Or I could buy that unit of attention, but I can buy that unit of attention from lots of different places. But the fundamental problem is, if I can't get the money back from the money I spent on the unit of attention, then I have to have an infinite pot of money, right? So that's why the systems that happen post-advertising matter. But I think trying to stay compliant means that you can continue to buy units of attention, which means you can save your time, which means you don't have to be building these audiences. It's a very long-winded answer, and I can't remember the question.
Well, no, that makes sense. So principle number one is read the guidelines, read the policies.
Definitely.
Principle two is don't push the limit, or if you do, recognize that there's consequences to doing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or push the limits, but understand why you're doing it. So yes, you might say, oh, I'm going to say something really polarizing and aggressive in my ad, but what are you trying to change? You're trying to get a better click-through rate. Great. But are you trying to get a better click-through rate to something that works? Because if not, then
it's not worth
just don't take the risk. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. So then number two is know your numbers. And then number three is derive the tactics that you use based on your risk profile and based on how safe you think you're going to be with that tactic, and whether it's pointing to a funnel that's already converting or not.
Yeah. So if Joe Rogan was to start running Facebook ads to promote his podcast, and he got his ad account shut down tomorrow, you still be able to operate his podcast, I imagine.
Okay, so there's principle 4 then, which is, as you said, hedge your traffic, which with paid and organic. So either hedging between paid and organic, but also within paid and within organic, to have multiple sources of traffic, so that you're not entirely reliant on YouTube. For example, we just talked about someone who got their YouTube channel cancelled because of it was doing sex education. It's it's a risky topic, and you're going to have a higher number of flags on there. So again, it's kind of coming back to principle number 2, be careful of your...
YouTube must have had something happen, I don't know when, over the last year or so, because you've got to mark every video now as being suitable and not suitable for children. I don't know why that came in. Do you know why that came in?
So actually, I think it's partly because of a trend of people making videos that were ostensibly for kids, and it was Spider-Man wearing a morph suit and stuff, but they were just humping each other and doing stuff that was completely unacceptable. but because it was seen as a kids video, like none of the human reviewers looked at the video. So now they've tried to crack down a bit more.
So there's a perfect example, right, of like how these policies come to be. So people look at that and like, my video is safe for children. What a weird thing to have to do.
But because they were weirdos.
Yeah. So that it always comes from like it all basically all rules in life are created because somebody did something that caused a negative outcome. So like, right, well, we've got to put a stop to that. How do we, well, create a rule to stop the thing that caused the problem from happening again? And that's most of these policies are created like that.
Because someone went and ruined it for it. Well, there's a building that I know that's now stopped the down escalator because someone fell down it. So now both escalators go up, which I think personally is more dangerous because then you can just fall down infinitely. You can never fall down the escalator.
If the rates match, yeah. I mean, it'd be a fairly fast escalator, I would have thought, for it to consistently catch and keep chucking it.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the rate of fall, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But potentially infinite
you
fall.
can fall down an escalator regardless of which way it's going, surely.
Yeah, it's just that there's an end to the down escalator.
Well, it's the same distance, right? It's just the stairs are moving in a different direction. So, like, you're right that. So, have you seen this is a huge tangent. Have you seen the TV series on Netflix called The Staircase?
No, but you told me about it. I need to get on that.
A guy gets accused of murder of his wife because she fell down the stairs and died, right? And people arrive at the scene and they're like, "Come on, mate! Like, she fell down the stairs and look at the amount of blood. Like, this is really, you're taking the piss." And then like you get into it and you realize she fell down the stairs backwards and hit her head. And for some reason, hearing that sentence, like she fell down the stairs backwards, completely flips it in my head for me. Because like, imagine falling down the stairs backwards. Horrendous.
Yeah, it'd be really bad. I think I've got close. Like if I'm carrying stuff and the stairs are really steep and yeah.
But like, what can you do? Like you're going to hit your head. You're going to have a fairly significant impact on something when you. So anyway, I think you're right. I think yesterday, I think you need to put a stop to that. Change your policies.
Well, there we go. So
yeah. So I guess how to stop ads getting disapproved. Some of it's experimenting. So some of it is like finding like what are the rules of the game I'm playing and how do I try and stay within the rules. And then there's kind of being creative within the rules as well. So there's things that it's trying to understand like why would they disapprove things and what might they not want on the platform, and then if something does get disapproved, trying to troubleshoot why that might be and thinking, well, what am I trying to communicate here? This is obviously assuming that the people here are not selling like a weight loss powder that has no chance of working, and they're at the core of it, they're selling something that is helping somebody. But it's like, well, how do I communicate that message? Well, how might I get the same thing across using different language or using like an idiom or an analogy, something that perhaps like a bot scanning this may not pick up, or even a human reading this may think that's reasonable, versus like drop £8 guaranteed by tomorrow. Like obviously things like that are going to cause problems and upset people.
It's kind of great that yes, it's a bit more of a ball ache to create, but on a global scale, it's great that the market is moving in that direction. And the same thing's happening with YouTube as well, that we're moving more from data metrics to user behavior metrics. And as a result, YouTube videos that rank best are not necessarily the ones that nail the tag or the keyword or whatever, or have like a thumbnail of boobs. And then people click on it. It's nothing to do with boobs. It's now more to do with how long someone watches the video, and that's much harder to hack. And so as a result, the quality of the market goes up overall. Because in the past, you could say like crazy prank in the hood gone sexual, and the thumbnail would be boobs, and it would just be like a fake thing that's all just but they would rank top on the search term because they tick all the boxes.
And it's better for everyone if it's optimized for video time watched, right? Like if the best videos are the ones that everyone's watched, then surely everybody, like the content being made is of a higher quality, and then the user experience is better, and then the people watch the videos that they want to watch, and then they get served more of the better content that of, you know, and the whole thing just improves, versus like here I am sort of clicking on something thinking it's about something useful, and suddenly I'm being shown this like weird thing, or like a 3-minute video that someone's clearly put an effort into, but it's got 10 million views.
Yeah.
It's like the currency, isn't it, on YouTube especially. It's like if something's got 1 million views, you give it a couple of minutes of your time, don't you, to see if it's any good.
That's true. And also, like, it previously used to be that it was, if the video was 10 minutes long, that would do better. Whereas now it's not so much about the length of time. It's just, it needs to be as long as it needs to be for the content to be got across. So people were like fluffing out their videos, and something that should have been a 20-second video, they would extend out to 10 minutes, or they'd even loop the same portion over and over again, to try and hack the algorithm.
The same thing.
No one's going to watch a 20-second thing on loop for the whole video and improve the user metric.
Does it account for if someone like skips forward? I know you're not YouTube, so I don't know. I know you don't know the answer. But...
I've wondered that myself, and I wonder whether it's like time on page or progress through the video, because like I watch everything on triple speed, so I must be like
a third as valuable.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably time on page is the most. I think if you and I were designing it, we'd pick time on page, wouldn't we?
Yeah, there we go.
There's actually someone who skips forward is actually worse. Like if I skip the first 20 minutes of the video, like what does that say about the video?
Very true. Yeah, because that's like, oh well, there's a lot of bump at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we weren't advertising at the time on Facebook, but apparently it used to be the case that, like, you know, people would put up sort of a semi-erotic image to grab the attention, and then it would totally U-turn into like an affiliate marketing thing.
Yeah.
So we've come from there to where we are now, and like across that time, the people at the compliance department of Facebook are constantly having to like troubleshoot, solve.
It's becoming
to try and keep everybody happy,
more refined. Well, so I think Twitter is the least regulated out of the.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've noticed that the promoted posts that can get to the top of the feed are often like very kind of 90s BuzzFeed type stuff. Like, I can't believe she did this. You'll never believe what happened next.
Oh, really?
And it's like a picture of someone like with their like boobs pushed up into a thing, and like a picture of an airport, and you're like, this is all just like, they clearly just have free reign to do what they want.
Yeah, like diver finds shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean. You won't believe what he found inside.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, someone's paying money to promote this, and then you click on it, and it is just like binary options trading, whatever.
So there are entire categories, I think, that aren't allowed on Facebook these days. Like, I don't think trading opportunities are. I don't think any crypto, Bitcoin stuff is. And I can kind of see why, right? Like, everyone's seen an article of someone who got scammed into some kind of trading related thing and then lost their life savings and that sort of stuff. So it's like, again, what does a bad user experience look like? 1 minute I'm on Facebook, the next minute I've lost my life savings.
Yeah.
How do we stop that from happening? But I think, the parting thing, because a ton of people I speak to are basically in the camp of, so I don't speak to many people who are successfully, consistently on a monthly basis spending money on advertising as an online fitness coach or even an offline fitness coach. And I think a lot of people think that the reason for that is some kind of tweak or tactic that they need to be doing on Facebook or on the ad platform that they pick. And it almost never is the case, because there are just parameters that you can't change. So the CPM that I mentioned before, like basically the price to run ads in certain industries, you're going to just have to pay a certain amount to get someone to click on an ad. Like, there's only so much you can move that in. And so that means that where you're sending the clicks, the setup of that has to be such that you at least stand a chance of at least making your money back. And if you don't have that set up, it doesn't matter how optimized the ads are. Most people I speak to anyway are in that camp where the ads are actually great. Like the numbers they're getting on their ads are great, but they're still losing a lot of money on advertising. And it's because people click and then it's like, buy my program immediately, or people click and it's like, download my recipe book and then hope they do something later, but no one knows when. So that's when like the customer journey stuff comes in. And I guess that's the rest of this podcast, right? Is all the stuff we talk about. But that's where to focus the attention. It's like in Propane Business, we don't teach ads to people until they've brought customers in, most of the time.
Because it's only going to augment the current results that they're getting.
It's putting fuel on it. Yeah. What is the example I use? It's like multiplying something by 2. Like if you multiply 0 by 2, still 0.
Yeah.
So
there is a really good analogy you used for that.
Petrol on a fire. If you pour petrol on like just wood, then you've just got wet wood. If you pour petrol on a fire, then
yeah.
So that's exactly it, and that's why like, if somebody like Joe Rogan was to nail an ad strategy, it would probably do really well, right? Because there's an underlying, like clearly something's working underneath it all. It's the same as people who have like influencers have the opposite problems. They've got all the traffic they could ever want, but they don't know how to convert the traffic. So it's like they've got free traffic to, for as much as they could ever possibly need.
Which is an advertiser's dream if they have a funnel and a product.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? It's like they're both frustrated at the problems of the opposite party.
Mm-hmm. And then you go and like look at how many followers we have on Instagram, and then wonder how we do this.
Yeah, there we go.
It's just because Yusuf has a separate account, which is just bum pics, and that's where we get all the opt-ins from.
Bum pics.
Bum pics.
Well, Johnny, I've learned a lot from this podcast.
Yeah, I've learned that
the surface area of digestive thins
is greater than the surface the normal ones. Yeah, I would love to know the comparison, because the CPM equivalent is the calories per 100 grams. It's like the normalizing variable. But the question is, how many thins can I have for a one digestive?
Well, the click is how much satiety, isn't it? So cost per click must be.
What? I'm going to look it up. They're just chocolate. They're dark chocolate, those ones, aren't they?
Dark chocolate, yeah. So higher fat.
Here's a question for you. How many milligrams of caffeine would you recommend not as a doctor, but as a doctor, would you recommend someone consumes on a daily basis?
I mean, I am very low caffeine. I've had 40 milligrams today, and that's a high day for me. So that's two green teas. But
sorry.
Have you just stubbed your toe?
No, it was my knee. I was like crossing my leg and hit my knee.
But I think I wouldn't want to go more than 200 or 300 a day. There are some cardioprotective and neuroprotective benefits of coffee, but I don't know whether they are specifically because of the caffeine or because of the other compounds in. Because with a lot of things like this, there's loads of cofactors in the whole food equivalent of the active ingredient that help with absorption and help with all of the other kind of stuff too. That's why like people say, rather than supplementing iodine, have iodine containing foods, because you're going to get more of a complete nutritional solution.
It's like a downside to multivitamins, right?
Yeah, because you just
eat a better diet. So I was just looking into it yesterday. So this is again way off topic. 84 calories, by the way, apparently in a milk or dark chocolate digestive biscuit.
Per biscuit. So there's 31 calories per one here. So
you can just about do 3. And then say,
But 3 just flies.
To cut the calories between friends. It's 3 like. So I wouldn't say if I ate a biscuit, and this is the problem with biscuits. If I ate a biscuit, if I was taken into a room, given some sort of like, the flash pen they use on Men in Black where they made people forget things. Gave me a biscuit, did that, and then went, have you just eaten a biscuit? Unless I could taste it, like, or get the residue, I just wouldn't be able to tell or for the rest of the day, which is ridiculous. Like, that's such a bad trade for 84 calories.
It's dangerous, isn't it?
Do you think it's greater with 3 of them? Are you like, yeah, bit of an eating event there?
I don't think it is. And this is why, like, Nick Foxall, who is a strong man that would just pound food, he'd have a pack of digestives and a jar of honey before bed because it's just like easy snack.
Gone. That'll be sort of like 1,500 calories, probably something like that. Honey's probably a bit more potent than that, actually.
Jar of honey, yeah.
Jar.
300 grams of sugar. So that's 1,200 calories just in itself.
I bet you just drop off to sleep, though. I bet he doesn't have any trouble sleeping.
Yeah, blood sugar at 30.
So I was looking into caffeine and like what is a recommended dose before it like starts to mess with your sleep. And 2 milligrams per kilo of body weight was kind of the thrown around number.
Okay.
Which is a big drop for me. So I'd probably be normally like at least half a gram.
I mean, you're a caffeine veteran as well, so
yeah. I've been around the block. Whereas you, I feel like you were like special forces, and then you had a really bad experience, and now you're like a lollipop lady.
Yeah, who's just got a bit of pain behind her eyes, like she's seen things.
And someone will be like a loud car alarm, and you'll get flashbacks and like.
That's exactly it.
And I don't even drink coffee.
What a
one day I'm going to take you for a big double shot Americano.
Just make sure you've got medical help ready.
Got the defibrillator and stuff.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So there are some strategies to not get your Facebook ads declined.
Yes.